good stuff.
Welcome back, everybody, to Goodwill Podcasting with Dan and Stone, your movie podcast that today is talking about Project Hail Mary. Yes, a new sci-fi, kind of original sci-fi film is out currently in theaters starring Ryan Gosling. A lot of people have seen it. It is getting praised, a lot of praise, and we are here to talk about it today, get into the book, the adaptation of it and all, the cast and crew behind it. But before we get into that, I'm excited because we have a guest today who me and Dan just said might be the most qualified person to talk about a certain movie that we've ever had on Goodwill Podcasting. We like to make sure that our guests align perfectly with the film or TV show that we're talking about. Miss Kalpana Pot, you might be the guest. I don't know if there's anybody better than you because Dan, it was funny. He sent me a video and he was like, "Isn't this cool?" And it was of your observatory, like your hosting and all of that.
Yeah.
And I told him, I was like, I've seen like stuff like I feel like they're doing this a lot, and I've seen them do that. I think at different observatories. But then I realized because he had already sent me your information because he knew you, but I didn't know you. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's the person we're having on the podcast. Oh,
Yeah. It's not just a cool
So-
video. We're gonna host
it
her,
was a
yeah.
cool video. But anyways, thank you for joining us.
Oh my God, thank you for having me. And like you already reiterated perfectly, it's just timing wise about the film and what I do is just perfect. So I'm glad to have been your most qualified guest so far. So far.
So had this movie and adaptation been on your radar for a while? Because I made a video like 2 years ago because I was really excited just about the cast and crew that was involved with this one and the
Yeah.
cinematographer, the directors with Ryan Gosling. But being, so involved with science I'm curious if you were a fan of Andy Weir and his material and like if you were really excited for this adaptation, if you had read the book way before. I think it came out in 2021.
I think so. That sounds about right. I think.
Okay. Had you ever read
Uh,
it back then or were you familiar with it?
No, I am so late. Even though I work in Hollywood, I'm so late to everything that it does because mostly I'm spending my reading time doing nonfiction, like science books, just for fun. And so I was aware because I very, very briefly met Andy Weir before because I work part-time here in LA at Griffith Observatory. When The Martian came out, he was there, he did a book signing, so it was like a quick hi. So he was on my radar since that time, but I have been late to this project. So I was actually introduced to it when Amazon invited me last year for Comic-Con to do promotion for MGM for this film specifically, plus some other like animated stuff that they do. But and then that's when I was like, oh, cool. How am I just hearing about this? And it was probably a month later or so, I did the audiobook. I have two copies of the actual book, which I'll probably read again because that's how much I loved the book. But Ray Porter, the talented voiceover actor, I mean, I tell everyone when they read the book, just do the audiobook first because he's so good. But yeah, long story short, it's been on my radar since last summer. So a little late, but it's never too late.
Yeah, and I've been reading your biographies and like in your accounts and stuff like that.
Um,
You have a very interesting career. Like you just hinted at it a little bit there, but you not only work at the observatory, but you write and you also act and you live in Hollywood. So
yeah.
how do you balance all of that and what do you necessarily want to do with your career? Because it's very interesting.
Thank you. I have a hard time defining it myself. I am constantly stressed and anxious and burned out, like 24/7. So also I started school this year. I'm pursuing a degree in astronomical and planetary sciences. So I actually have a background in
Wow.
communications. I've just always been a space nerd. And that's what I think made me qualified, but I have imposter syndrome as well. So I'm like, I want to get this damn degree. So that way I can assuage my own like, am I actually qualified? But I do know what I'm talking about. But I moved out to LA over 10 years ago to pursue acting and entertainment. And it just so happened that science kind of bridged its way in. And it's an interesting discovery that I did not anticipate happening. And like everybody else, I hopped on social media during the pandemic where I was like, why don't I just talk about something that I love, which is space and science without expecting anything. Like I wasn't doing it to go viral necessarily. That'd be a great, but it's led me down this interesting journey of like realizing that I actually do want to tell stories that are a bit more science influenced or based or just talking about people in STEM, humanizing them. A big push for that was because of all the anti-science stuff that's happened in the past several years. And then I encounter it regularly too with flat earthers and moon landing deniers. So I was like, there's some weird disconnect here. where I want to humanize people in science a bit more. So that's where writing, like screenwriting, has become a bit more of a newer thing for me, as in like the past 4 to 5 years. So just kind of trying to do it all. And I like it because I like staying busy, but it's also kind of jarring for me at times to realize that in Hollywood these days, they kind of expect that from you. Not saying fully, but like, you have to have your own built-in audience, and you also have to be kind of good at writing if you want to get anything developed and this and that. And so we're just doing it all. And I think it's good and bad. I enjoy it, but then I think it also leads to burnout. So long story short, I can't quite describe what I do. I kind of do it all. But storytelling and science, we'll say those two together is what I like.
Say when it comes to people who have that extreme opinion about certain scientific facts
Yeah.
that seem very crazy. I love to see Dan talk about those people a lot, and when he voices his videos on them because he's pretty harsh with it. It's like, what are we doing here? We're
No, absolutely. I've seen that before, but I respect the opinion. It's like, why placate people? Like, for instance, I curse in my videos, and was never for any reason. Like, I just curse naturally as a human. And when I find the universe to be so effing interesting, I will say that. But it's rubbed some people the wrong way. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, it's just my page. You either adapt to my form of entertainment or don't. Yeah. So I get it, Dan.
Yeah, it's just, there's so many things to worry about, and there are so many things that I think there are a lot of official stories that are incorrect that have been fed to us, and the fact that people will look at the world today and be like, let's talk about the Earth being flat or the moon.
Yeah.
Like there's so many other things to give your attention to that are like real,
Yeah.
that are actual conspiracies, quote unquote. So like, why are
Yeah.
we talking about this? I don't. It's
Exactly.
frustrating.
No, I agree. And a lot of people are like, well, isn't science about questioning? I'm like, 100%, but some things are facts. There's no reason to waste time on it anymore.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need to still expend energy in arguing the shape of the earth. I figured everybody knew it by now, but evidently not. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a big push. I mean, out of turmoil comes art. So the flat earthers are the reason I got online ultimately. So it's their fault.
there you go. It literally spawns somebody that they disagree with. So I hope
Yes,
they're happy now.
exactly. Yeah, right.
So when it comes to Andy Weir and his writing, how much when you read the book do you find that what he says is accurate based on the knowledge that you have? Because
Yeah.
I mean, I've read a lot of articles, I've watched a lot of interviews with him, and it seemed like besides a certain character in this movie where it does get more science fiction-y, a lot of
Mhm.
his writing is very scientifically accurate. I mean, I've
Yeah.
only my experience with him is just this and The Martian, so I don't know
Hmm.
what you've seen of his, but
No, same. Those are so far the only two, and I respect someone who does their due diligence with science because then I will forgive them on any insane sci-fi. Even for The Martian, I want to say, if I remember, because it's been so long now, the opening scene, like the dust storm on Mars, is just not how it happens there. But I understand you needed an inciting incident for the rest of the story to occur, and then the rest of it was fine. So like I can forgive that because the rest of it was so well thought out. But with Project Hail Mary, I just remember like, holy crap. And I don't want to exaggerate or put people off. When I say like every other line was scientific, like in some way, yeah, there's a lot they had to figure out. They spent a lot of time figuring out the astrophage and then using it for energy, how it blocks radiation. Because a lot of people in the science field don't talk about it enough. But the biggest problem to human space exploration is radiation. Like even going to Mars would definitely more than likely lead the astronauts to eventually getting cancer. And so it's super cool that he knew that and he used the antagonist of the film to also like not have radiation be a problem on this journey. And then also the time dilation was figured out well because I think it was only going to be a 4-year trip for Grace, but then obviously it would Earth experiences more time because he's moving at a significant fraction of the speed of light. So, yeah, so I thought it was great. I guess like the only thing like the astrophage itself maybe has a little, not that it was wrong, but then it's also not completely factual either. Not the existence of them, but that them eating the sun would be the only factor that led to the sun dying in 30 years or the earth freezing over. I think with climate science, obviously the sun is the biggest part, but then there's also variables of our atmosphere and things like that. So just to say like, oh, the astrophage are eating the sun, therefore in 30 years we're screwed, there might be a little more discrepancy there. But otherwise, I mean, dude can take any liberty he wants after all the amazing writing that he does. So, yeah.
I said, unfortunately for me, I attempted to read the book
Hmm.
3 to 4 times, and I got to like the same point every single time. I don't know what happened, but I think it was when Rocky was introduced. It's not that I didn't like Rocky,
Sure.
but something would happen and I would just get distracted. But from a non-science perspective, I will say I do have a bachelor's degree in biology, a little bit
Oh, well,
different
there
than
you go. There you go.
yeah, a little bit different than what you do. Also, I've forgotten a lot of it. But
Fair.
the whole like the astrophage like, absorbing the sun and them using that for fuel in the mission was like I think like a very interesting and cool idea from a reading
Mhm.
perspective, and it felt like a very new science fiction story
Mhm.
that we really haven't seen before. So I think of that, and then also the relationship. The science fiction of Rocky is what really like caught people because you got to have
Mhm.
the both the fiction and the nonfiction that really
Yeah, totally.
interests both crowds.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the part that threw me, which I was talking about with my co-host on our podcast, like where we just talk about science and actually some entertainment. We both saw the movie last week, and I don't quite remember if they, because obviously the movie leaves out a lot of the science that was mentioned in the book, which is totally fine. Like, know your audience. Uh, and I don't fully remember in the book if they explained how Rocky's species understood that these stars are dying. Because for a creature that doesn't have eyes, stars are essentially black body radiation objects, as in, like, we know they exist because of light. Like, they emit all sorts of frequencies and wavelengths of light. And I'm like, for a species that doesn't see, how do they know that these stars are dying? And so it's like, was there something in the book I just forgot or that I missed? Because everything else was addressed super well. And then, yeah, like you can say maybe because their evolution is so different than ours, they see or understand stars just differently than we do. But it's just, it's so strange, like that of all objects, stars, which are light, like emitting so much light, that it was a species that can't see them in the way we do, at least with the EM spectrum, still knows that they're there. So maybe there's some answer on the internet with someone like with a PhD who can explain it better than me. So that was the only part that threw me. And I will say, I remember, I don't think that really threw me off in the book. So maybe it was explained better then, and I'm just forgetting. But in the movie, I kept thinking that. I was like, how would they know? How would they know that Tau Ceti is living while their star is dying when they can't even see? So I'll have to do my due diligence on that and figure it out. But it's really cool though that they showed a species that was not humanoid at all, I mean, yet that you can still have this bond with them. I thought that was fun.
Yeah, I kind of was just talking about that in a video yesterday where um I like when, it's easy to go like the Star Wars route and have a little fluffy thing that
Yeah.
everyone loves and it's cute, but like when it's a spider rock with no eyes and no face, like it's more of a challenge. Um and I think,
Totally.
obviously Rocky is lovable, but I think creating empathy when it's not necessarily on a platter is interesting in a story, and makes their bond that much better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that in the book too, because a couple people I think said, I mean, it was overall amazing reviews, even from friends who've seen it, but they were like, damn, he learns English really fast. But they do mention in the book, like Rocky Species is excellent with sound memorization because
Hmm.
that's what they communicate with. So for them, for him to have picked up our language super quick, that was explained a bit better in the book for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting you breaking down Rocky's planet and their experience with their son from a scientific perspective, because I
Hmm.
think, and if you don't look at it that way, it's just a plot hole.
Yeah,
like I,
yeah,
like
exactly.
I also think that with you saying that Rocky's plan, I think Rocky was in space longer than Rylan
Mhm.
was, if I'm not
I think so.
mistaken. But then when they returned to his planet, it's not like Earth; it's not frozen over. Everyone, oh, I guess they do. I guess spoilers, but it's okay. They kind of do put Rylan in like a giant glass box, so maybe outside of that glass box, the whole place is frozen and recovering from their damaged sun. Um,
Right.
but
Totally. I
I
think,
don't know if
yeah.
as much thought was given into. I guess you would call it arid if they're
Yeah,
iridiums.
Arid. Yeah, 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 exactly. I know their planet in general is much warmer and hotter and darker. Like even its radiation from the star doesn't quite penetrate through their thick atmosphere. And I guess like you can compare it maybe in that way to Venus. Like the reason why that planet is so hot is because of its very thick atmosphere and it has a runaway greenhouse gas effect. So perhaps like freezing over there is just going to take longer in general. But you're right, like we don't see outside of Grace's igloo thing, his glass dome, so we're not fully sure what the rest of the planet is looking like. And you guys, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but you didn't finish the book, right? So, because I would love to mention the ending is actually the only place I had an issue with the film because of how it differed from the book, but I don't want to spoil anything either, so you let me
Okay,
know.
I'll say we can wait until we, I guess, get into spoilers for the movie.
Okay, okay,
But
fair enough.
so yeah, we've already talked about the book a whole lot. But I
Mhm.
wanted to, Dan, I had a realization about Ryan Gosling that I'm curious what you'll think of, and both of you guys. But
Mhm.
Ryan Gosling, I guess, was the champion of this entire movie and this entire
Mhm.
project because I believe he read the manuscript of Andy Weir's like idea and story before the book even came out. There's an interview, or there's him in front of, I believe, AMC Lincoln Center, um, AMC Lincoln Square, talking about the movie, saying thank you guys for being here. Dan, did you see his quote where he was like, I'm sure you love this, where he was like, it's
I
not
saw
your
it.
job. Yeah, I love this quote.
Yeah.
Ryan Gosling's like, it's not your job to keep movie theaters alive. It's our job to put movies in the theater that you guys want to come and watch. I'm like, ooh, that's
Damn,
pretty,
no shit.
that's
Yeah.
pretty good.
Hmm.
But he said he had been uh he read this 6 years ago, and I believe Project Hail Mary came out in 2021. So I
Yeah.
think it might have been the social, like the Social Network. Basically, there was already, the story was bouncing around, and maybe a film adaptation. They thought already a film adaptation could happen, or Andy Weir thought it could happen. But something I found interesting when it comes to Ryan Gosling's journey from when he first read this script to the making of this movie, and how he's a producer on it, he's the star in it, he's the one who got the entire team together, is in the middle of that was the movie Barbie, which
Mhm.
Margot Robbie did the exact same thing. Margot Robbie, I believe, was the one who really championed Barbie and put all the pieces together when it came to that project, produced it, starred in it. And she saw the benefit of that, not only in the box office, which we're seeing this weekend with Project Hail Mary, but in awards season. Like, that was a huge film, and it was really all because of Margot Robbie, I believe.
Mhm.
So the fact that that's happening, I wonder if Ryan learned from her and saw what happened with her and was like, okay, I can actually do this. And then the ball started rolling even more, because I don't think that they started actual production on this movie until 2024, which would have been right after Barbie. But yeah, that's something I thought about. Uh, I'm curious, do you know, um, we were talking about the directors of this movie and where they came from. Did you know that primarily these directors came from animation?
I did not know that. I think I knew they had some of that on their resume, but I didn't know like that was their bread and butter. Holy crap, good for them. What a movie to jump into.
They haven't,
Yeah.
yes, they have not directed a movie for 12 years. Their names are Phil Lord and Christopher Miller.
Mhm.
And the last movie they directed was the Lego movie. So it's very interesting that they go from, I mean, if you really think about it, that movie is just about a singular guy. And so is, they've also made the movie Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. They also made 21 and 22 Jump Street. So very like guy heavy comedic films, I will say, is what
Mhm.
they partake in. But there are also big producers and big creatives involved with the Spider-Verse films as well.
Right.
Um,
Okay, yes, yes, yes. That's
so
right.
the fact that
Interesting.
they decided to do this project is very,
Yeah.
very interesting. Dan,
Yeah.
what did you think about? I mean, you just watched the Lego movie, so is there anything that you saw between that movie and this movie that kind of translated over thematically? Did you notice any
Yeah.
like parallels?
Yeah. I mean, I think when you think about the protagonists, I think they're very similar. I think um they're both, I think Ryan Gosling is a much better actor than Chris Pratt, but they're both kind of down to earth guys. I think very sort of um maybe Ryan Gosling isn't relatable, but um normal-ish people. I mean, I think Chris Pratt's a weirdo, but like again, Chris Pratt and Stone and I were talking about this, but I think with the Lego movie, something I found funny is I think Chris Pratt is a very uninteresting n- normal guy actor. I don't think there's anything that makes him special as an actor. And the Lego movie is very much playing on that idea of this guy is not special. Like he's just a guy and he's very average and bland, and that's kind of the running joke in the movie. But I think there is carryover, with the protagonist and kind of the weight that's put on their shoulders. And I think what's interesting about Project Hail Mary is showing you that this is not some um, like chest banging heroic protagonist who thinks he's, gonna save everyone, and thinks he can handle everything. He literally is basically dragged kicking and screaming into this entire thing. He's just a high school science teacher who's, fun and bubbly and happy and like likes teaching, but he's not a quote unquote hero
Yeah.
in the typical sense. So I think it makes the whole story compelling and relatable. I also just want to say I think it's interesting you were talking about Stone. Hey, maybe reading this book 6 years ago. The last movie he made before that was First Man, where he plays Neil Armstrong, and I that's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's my favorite Damien Chazelle movie, and I'm curious if his involvement in that project got him kind of gave him this space bug that kind of put him onto um, Project Hail Mary, and then kind of led to this project. 6 years later or 8 years
Mm.
after that film.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting connecting those pieces like that. Um, One thing I also find fascinating too is that the person who shot this movie, his name is Greg Fraser, great cinematographer. What I find super interesting was there's other movies that will be competing. Another movie that will be competing in the Oscars for a lot of awards. That is science fiction next year. That is Dune Part Three, and Greg Fraser was the cinematographer for both the first part of that and the second part, but not for the third part because it seemingly seems like he chose this movie instead of shooting that, which I find very interesting.
Mhm.
And it's very different because I mean, I don't know if we want to talk about this now or later, but the practicality of them building sets and the actual containment of these ships that they build is way different than being out on an open desert and in terrain and filming something like that. And I believe that they said this was the hardest thing that he's ever shot before, which
Wow.
in a contained space makes sense. But one little tidbit too is that one thing I loved that also carried over from those other projects was that the composer. Now I don't know yet how you guys feel about the score of this movie. Maybe we can get into that a little bit later. But that composer actually worked with the directors of this movie beforehand, and it was on the Spider-Verse movies. So those animated
Mhm.
films, they brought over the composer from that. His name's Daniel Pemberton, and he was involved with this. But do you guys want to get into the movie?
Sure.
All
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
I got my
Mhm.
little synopsis here that we can talk that I can say real quick. Science teacher Ryland Grace wakes up on a spaceship with no recollection of who he is or how he got there. As his memory slowly returns, he soon discovers he must solve the riddle behind a mysterious substance that's causing the sun to die out. As details of the mission unravel, he calls on his scientific training and sheer ingenuity, but he may not have to do it alone. All right, so
Mhm.
we always like to have the guest say their thoughts first. So, Kalpana, if you want to say a
Mhm.
spoiler-free review first,
Okay.
just your
Okay.
general thoughts about the movie, and Dan, you go next, then I'll go, and then we'll get into some spoilers.
Okay, sounds good. Overall, I loved it. What do I think the book is better? 100%, because there's so much more detail. And so it's tough when you read the book first and then you go watch the film adaptation because all you're doing is like, wait, that's different, or that person wasn't developed enough. But also working in the industry, I understand how difficult it is to make a film and for adapting. So overall, I still give it, okay, if like A is the highest score, probably almost an A, like A minus. And it's because
Okay.
the ending bothered me a little, which I know we'll talk about in the spoiler section. But overall, I loved it. And I love the hopefulness. I keep hearing this term around Hollywood these days called hope core. Like people are wanting to develop projects that are just giving people hope, like A Night of the Seven Kingdoms versus like how dark Game of Thrones was. So like gearing towards more of that. So I think timing wise, it was perfect. And yeah, if ultimately the heart of the story was about like a buddy love comedy journey together. I think they nailed that. So just almost an A, but I'm gonna go with A minus.
Good score.
Nice. Yeah, this is something actually I have not read the book. I had started working through the audiobook, but didn't barely got into it.
Mhm.
Um, and I was telling you I've kind of fallen back into Dune, um, getting ready in that for advance. But anyway, My parents really love Andy Weir. They loved The Martian, the book. They both really loved that movie. I like that movie. I haven't read that book either, but they both also really enjoy this book, and they're really excited to movie. I'm going to see it again with them. Got to go to a screening, but we'll be watching it again. I'm excited to do that. Um, so that was kind of my main exposure um, to the material and to Weir was kind of through them, but I really enjoyed it. I think this is a movie that you were talking about the kind of hope core stuff I think is really necessary in this moment. I think people want to feel good. And not to, I mean, talk about my parents again, like I think they're both at a point in life where like they like to watch movies that make them feel better. Like I think they don't really like to watch a lot of dark, heavy stuff, which I completely understand. And I think, you know, they're both pretty in tune with the world and like politically inclined as well. And I think they see, you see all this stuff happening and things happening all over the world that and stuff that's terrible. And I think you kind of turn to art to give you a release from that. So
Yeah.
um I think this movie does that, and I think it definitely does have a heaviness to it, but it's really managed so nicely with the tone. Like there's a lot of humor. Um, Enjoyed how funny it is, and I think some people might be able to watch this and call it maybe a little like cheesy or hokey or like maybe I think some people will be able to like poke fun at it. But anyway, I think this is the movie that is really accessible to everyone, and I think um they definitely I would assume cut a lot of the science out of the from the book and made it a little bit more um dumbed down for a lack of a better word, but
Yeah.
I think the goal there is to like try to open it up to a bigger audience and get people into it. And we were talking beforehand about Interstellar, and how like heavy and serious and
Mhm.
overwhelming a lot of the science can be. And I don't love Interstellar. Um, so I think this is a movie that I actually prefer. And I think it just feels a lot more accessible while still having like a very real, tangible, scientific kind of backbone. So I like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, for me, I can't help but think about what Ryan said about why he made this is because he grew up with like ET and he has two children now with Eva Mendes, and he was thinking about the fact that they don't necessarily have a movie like ET. And it's not even the correlation between like, a man and an alien, right? That this story has and that story has. It's more so like this feels at times like a live action animated film, like with its story. Like you would feel like this story would get like this is what Lightyear was supposed to be, Dan. Didn't you just watch that?
Yeah, man. What an odd movie that is.
Lightyear is more serious than Project Hail Mary.
Truly. Yeah.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's
I
weird.
like that a story like this is not designated just to animation, even though I do love that medium. Um, I mean, I talked about it earlier, but I do think that the cinematography and the score. I think I texted Dan this a couple days ago. The one thing that I will notice when it comes to a movie that can really draw me in is having a good score. And what Daniel Pemberton does here is really unlike anything I've seen personally in a movie. I got to watch this a little bit early, and when people asked me about it, I told them that the score feels like at times that it's from different films. Like when you think about a composer and you think about like someone like John Williams or Hans Zimmer is a better example. They have different music that they make that sounds different, but a lot of times all the music involved with one project sounds the same. Like everything in Dune sounds like Dune, but everything in Interstellar sounds like Interstellar. But when it came to this movie, there's so much fun and so much diversity when it comes to the songs or the score, the soundtrack. I guess one example would be there's a moment where there's these two ships like dancing, and it seems like what Daniel did was he kind of put like a samba track to it. It's like light and bubbly and it's like it's moving with them, but then all of a
Yeah.
sudden you have the Petrova line sequence and it's so operatic. And I think I texted Dan this, but this is the first movie that has ever pushed me to tears because of something that was beautiful. It wasn't the sad moment. It wasn't Rocky. It wasn't, even though this is a good line, it wasn't the, wow, that's a lot of years with the person that you love. And Rocky's like, it's not enough. Like that got my wife. That didn't get me. But it was that score and those lights. And
Yeah.
and that was on my second watch too. That didn't even happen on my first watch.
Yeah.
But I was very surprised at how impressively shot and made this movie was for the story that it was telling.
Yeah.
Because another thing that I said a lot was when it came to the humor, which Ryan Gosling to me is a very funny actor, and when his comedy nails, it really nails. It kind of felt like a Marvel movie if Marvel gave a shit about what their movies looked like and sounded like, and the acting and everything was on point.
Yeah.
And I think that Ryan was can you guys picture? I was thinking about this. Can you guys picture any other actor leading this movie besides Ryan Gosling? Someone who can pull off being a science teacher, but someone who can also pull off being like kind of like a bumbly idiot by himself as he's like dealing with this amnesia that he has. Someone who can talk opposite of a puppet and like go head to toe with like Sandra Huller and have that like emotional moment with her. I I don't know. I feel like I would get annoyed of a lot of people because he's like in every single frame of this movie
Mhm.
besides him. I don't know. Is there anybody
Yeah.
you could think of?
You know, it's funny because a lot of people were worried that he was the lead because he's not described the way he is in the book per se. Like someone who you think, who you believe has everything, sorry, who you believe has nothing to lose. So like in the book, you know, he's like this 40-year-old man, he's kind of chubby and like doesn't have a family. It's hard to believe someone as hot as Ryan Gosling has nothing to lose, but he still did it justice. And I respect an actor who loved the material enough to do all the work for it. And he still pulled out everything he had for the acting aspect. The only person I could think of, and it doesn't really, he's too old now, but maybe like Brendan Fraser 15 years ago. But it's also because I love him, and he's also so good at being like a goofball and just lovable, and can play like a science teacher. But I would cast him in everything, so there's a bias there. That's why. But
That's a good pick. If this was 20 years ago, this would be Brendan
yeah,
Fraser.
yeah,
If
exactly.
you
Like yeah. Hmm.
if you didn't get to see it last year, he made a movie called Rental Family that
I
you
haven't
should
seen it.
watch.
Yeah.
If you love
Hmm.
if you like him a lot, you
Hmm.
should watch that.
Okay.
Um, what about Keanu Reeves?
Can he
It could have
nail
been interesting.
the comedy like Ryan? I
I
guess.
think so. Would be a very different movie, but I would like
It would
it.
be different. That's true. That's true. But
I feel like you just really like Keanu Reeves.
I do, yeah.
he's a
But
Him
I
likable
also,
dude. I get it. But yeah.
yeah.
him acting opposite of a space rock would be very funny. And
Yeah.
I think I've seen a lot of people say this, and I do like this sentiment a lot. It's like this movie, above everything else, is about friendship. And the reason why a lot of people say that this science fiction story is different than other ones is it's about people who are trying to get back to Earth because they have something on Earth to get back to. But you're dealing with a man who's Ryan Gosling and he's hot, so maybe it's not as believable. But someone who doesn't have really anything on Earth,
Yeah.
who finds actually a connection outside amongst the stars, which is
Yeah.
just it's very interesting, and that is
Yeah.
all Andy Weir what he has written. Like I said, I love the story. I love the astrophage. Um,
Hmm.
Visually, this
Yeah.
movie just looks really beautiful. I was trying to think. The astrophage don't necessarily they do shine I think it's infrared light on them, but they don't necessarily look pink in the book, right? They're not said to look like that, but I guess that's what they're interpreting it as in the movie.
Yeah, correct. I think
Okay.
let me think on how to describe. They are black dots in the book itself, and they only show up in infrared. So I guess how you can visually show that in a film is if you just kind of turn the whole thing kind of pink looking. So like I got that why they did it in the movie, but yeah, you're absolutely right.
It was a good decision. And it's crazy having this movie in theaters and talking about this movie right now. And then we got me and Dan were just talking about this before you jumped on the Moana live action trailer where
So bad.
it looks very poor. And we're not haters when it comes to that movie. Dan is actually someone messaged me about it, Dan, and Dan has actually changed my opinion a little bit, saying like it's been 10 years and there's kids that want to see Moana on the big screen that didn't get a chance to back then. And that makes complete sense. But when you
Sure.
put out something like that, that looks objectively worse in every sense of the
Hmm.
matter. It's just a worser version of the movie. Then
Yeah.
those kids don't deserve that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in our opinion, Disney doesn't deserve to make money off of that. But
No, totally. And I hope they don't. But I remember someone saying last year it was like all the original stories combined still didn't make as much money as what was it, Lilo and Stitch? Was that last year, guys, or was that the year
yeah,
before? I don't
Yeah.
even
That
know
was
anymore.
last year.
But like that's so sad. So I hopefully this story will also help be and like that and Sinners and things like that will be pushing towards more original storytelling. But I think right before I hopped on, I checked out your page and I think I saw the Moana reel. So I totally get it. I completely agree. You go from
Yeah.
something
And
like what
what
we just said to this, or to that. Yeah.
it couldn't be more different. And like, especially, I was talking yesterday about all the work that went into Rocky himself and how like he's this tangible puppet with this team of 5 people,
Yeah.
manning him and how real he feels. And like, I think the pendulum is kind of swinging back where people are craving that kind of stuff and they want more of it and they'll go support
Hmm.
it. Um, and like I said with Moana, like, it might cost you more money, but you have a chance to go out to like those islands and shoot like a beautiful movie on the water and try to do as much of it as you can practically and maybe dial back some of the, goofy big stuff with Maui and all, but like you can still tell the story and do it in a way that's very real and draw attention to that history, which is incredible. And there's potential there to make a really cool live action film that has some deviations from the original, but that's just not what it is looking at the trailer. Like they just want to do shot for shot.
Hmm.
And when it's all CGI and green screen, like what's the difference between that and animation except it looks worse?
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
don't I
Exactly.
don't know. So
Yeah, just stick to the animation then. Yeah, it's very lazy storytelling for sure. Just like, oh, we're just doing this because we know there's a built-in audience who gives a shit what it
yeah.
looks like, which is super sad. And like what just little details even in Project Hail Mary, because outside the ship, the light source is so little because they're in space. And there was a part where, I mean, they're doing the centrifugal force so they can mimic gravity on the ships, right? Like that's the point of them spinning and all that shit. But when you would see exterior shots and the ships were spinning, you would see light shine on it only every so often. And I just really respect those details because it was the part that was facing the star or the planet would be the only thing that has light. And they really paid attention to all of that. And it's stuff that maybe most people can't pinpoint, but they register it and they respect it. So good for them.
yeah, and they have a lot of lights all over the ship too, and that adds
Hmm.
a lot. It adds dimensions to Ryan and just makes it look more beautiful if you have that natural light rather than like putting it on a green screen. And
Yeah.
one thing that also adds to people like with Sinners last year with this movie and people wanting quantity or wanting quality over quantity is Dan. I don't know if you saw it. I just put it on my story, but Wonder Man actually got renewed for season 2. Did you see that?
I did not see that, but that's a
Yeah.
good thing. I mean,
That was a very non-Marvel show that was labeled as a Marvel show, and people just liked it because it was a really good story. And it wasn't supposed to get a season 2, but I guess people checked
Oh,
it
but there
out.
you go. Who would have thought? I don't know why Hollywood thinks our audiences are a bunch of idiots because, like, literally all we want is just good writing, good acting. I don't give a shit about the spectacle or the CGI. Just make a heartfelt story. And again, that's why A Night of the Seven Kingdoms did so well, is because what do you know? These formulas have been figured out for so long now. The basic storytelling formulas. It's not that hard.
yeah,
So,
yeah, and I think like Star Wars saw this with Andor, like
yeah.
Game of Thrones saw it with Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, and Marvel saw it with Wonder Man, and like I think even to an extent stuff like Agatha all along, like make something that's just unique, knows what it is confident, isn't trying to be for every single person, but
Yeah.
is something, and it has a creative vision, and like just do it. And it doesn't have to be the most viral, popular thing of all time, but like give it a chance to grow an audience and just be what it
Yeah.
is, and people will recognize the authenticity and the passion. It's not like you said, it's not rocket science, no pun intended. Like it's not a new formula. So I just
Right.
hopefully that lesson's being learned. But
Yeah, hopefully.
I think another thing that factors into it too is a lot of these movies, these big budget movies that don't look very good, have deadlines. And they have shareholders who want a Marvel movie to come out in 2026. So that's why Avengers Doomsday is coming out like on the very last day of this year. And when it comes to something like Sinners or Project Hail Mary, there isn't like necessarily like a driving force behind them to like you have to get this out, you have to get this out, so they're able to take their time. One thing that I read is that Drew Goddard, who was the one who wrote this movie, who adapted Andy Weir's writing, he was the same one who did it for The Martian, which is cool that they got the same guy back.
Yeah.
But Drew Goddard was busy doing something else, and they waited for him. They just waited around until he was not busy
Mm,
anymore, and they're like, okay, that's the guy who could do this because he's already done it
yeah.
before. So I
Yeah.
think that these studios get very impatient when it comes to this stuff because they're like, we want a movie as soon as possible rather than having the best movie as long as it takes to make that happen. So
Yeah, no, that's a good point. But like we said, if Lilo and Stitch made so much money last year, then what is a reason for having to slow down? They're like, well, people are going to see it anyway, so hopefully they stop seeing it. Therefore, they are forced to slow down and make something good.
Did you watch Elio, the Pixar movie?
Yes, I loved it. Sorry to yell. I love that film. I went to
No,
the premiere
yell away.
last year.
It's
Oh my God, I loved it. Speaking of score too, and I love Rocky Jesus, the Rocky score too, but like Project Hail Mary score. But Elio blew me away. It reminded me of similar tones to some degree of what Alan Silvestri did for Contact, which is my favorite film. And it was just so nice to have
yes,
like a
hell yeah.
heartfelt, yes,
Contact's
a
so good.
heartfelt like yes, so good. And I'm biased because Carl's vegan, of course, but like, man, being a kid in the 90s and that movie coming out, and who knows, maybe it had a part to play in my interest in space, but like just the score of something that's a grounded sci-fi film, the way it like just hits you in the heart. And I can't believe, because I have his songs on my phone, who I can't believe I forgot who composed Elio, but holy crap, that's just like another level of music I didn't expect for a Pixar film, which is normally good, but like there's so much heart in the music in that movie. I loved it. I was trying to tell everybody about it, not even getting paid to say it, but I was trying to tell everyone to see Elio. It was so good.
And they just let that movie die. They didn't
Oh
market
my
it,
God.
didn't try to market it. Like it was frustrating. But
Yeah, it's so
speaking really
frustrating. Mhm.
not to go off on a tangent, but speaking of Contact, did you like or see Ad Astra, the Brad Pitt movie?
Yeah, I did. I think I did like the idea. I think the part that really stood out to me was just the when he finds his dad, right? I'm trying to remember. I don't remember it as well as Contact because the frequency of watching the films, but just his dad scanned millions of exoplanets for signs of life and never found a single signature. And I thought that was a really cool twist on like the usual of finding life out there and what that would do impact humans. Isn't it almost worse to eventually find out that we are alone? And so I thought that theme was actually really cool. That was something unique. But as a film, it's not something I'd watch time and time again. I'm like, okay, cool, I got it. So it never impacted me as well as Contacted, just because I also saw more of a journey that Jodie Foster's character went through of being so scientific, having her mind blown, and being like, "Holy crap, I have to be open to possibilities." And I just thought that that movie took its time and just really nailed that idea.
Do you like Michael Bay's Armageddon?
Yes, and for different
How's the
reasons.
science there?
Yes, I love Independence Day more than Armageddon if you're going to kind of compare them in similar doomsday fun batshit categories. But it's a movie I can watch time and time again. We're not going to talk
Mhm.
about the fact that you never want to actually blow up an asteroid. It would probably be worse. So, but you know what? Like
The American
it's
way,
fun.
just blow it up. It'll be
Yeah,
fine.
exactly. Exactly.
Hit it with a
But
nuke.
Independence Day though. I love Independence Day more than Armageddon. But yeah, Contact's number one for sure. And Arrival
I,
is a close second. So
I love Arrival.
yeah, it's
And
so good.
I think people. I'm not hearing it compared as much, but like there are shades of Arrival here in terms of like the tone and the kind of wonder, and also the aspect of. And it's only really a long scene, but the establishing communication and that process, I think that's something that. And again, maybe it's an American thing. I think when we talk about aliens, they're either like cute and friendly and cuddly, or they're trying to kill us and we have to kill them. It's not really ever
Yeah.
like, how the fuck do we talk to them? Like that's an
Yeah.
interesting question that is real. Um, and I feel like there are
Yeah.
probably life forms out there that are like physiologically arranged in a way that like we haven't even considered, or like communicate in ways that we have no idea. Like it's not something we would ever even contemplate. But I think the idea of like being able to watch that process play out in terms of understanding each other was really cool. And that's really
Yeah.
all of Arrival. But
Yeah,
I
that's
like that.
true. That's a good point. Arrival took its time with that. In the book of Project Hail Mary, there is more time spent on them understanding each other. And I love,
Yeah.
though, that they use, because they touch on it in the movie a bit, but use elements as a way of starting that process, because elements will be literally universal. So oxygen having 8 electrons, and you can just start with hydrogen, one. And then you figure out, like, oh shit, he's talking about hydrogen. Cool, we can work with that. We can develop numbers that way. We can, yeah. So they say math is the universal language, and that I think that's the way you start.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is like Andy Weir. I mean, the whole that, and then
Mhm.
even the alien design, which is something that I guess I haven't read Artemis. I've watched The Martian, but
I haven't either.
that was something new to be added to his work, and he created a unique alien design that none of us have seen, and it just added so
Yeah.
much more to the story.
Yeah,
I think
totally.
I was gonna say I think we can get into spoilers now if you want. Before
Sure.
you talk about your big gripe, I wanted to talk about mine, and
Mhm.
curious if you guys felt the same before I forget. Um, I watched this movie 2 times, and there was something that really bothered me on the first watch that I got a little bit better, and I understood it a little bit more on the second watch. One thing that I don't think is clear from having read the book to watching the movie, or having read part of the book, is that I don't think it's clear that when you see the flashbacks that are happening on Earth, that is when Ryland Grace is remembering that material. That is that in time of him on the Hail Mary, that is when he's remembering it. And one thing that happens pretty late in the story, something that's very big that he remembers, is that Strat essentially drugs him and drags him on the ship. Now, to me, when I first watched that, and I haven't read that far in the book, I was like, this is a very big deal. I was
Yeah.
not expecting this to him to just get dragged on there. But then you see him on the ship, and it seems like he doesn't necessarily like care that much. And I was trying to figure out why that was, because if I was him, I would freak out about that. But I guess it is the sense that Rylan always wanted to help Earth, but he never had the confidence or never had the person to help Earth for. But then he found that eventually in Rocky. So I think that's what they were trying to say at the very end of the movie. But like I said, even him thinking about that, I don't think unless you've read the book that it's connecting with general audiences that the character is remembering that moment at that current time in the story. Um, and I think that might have added, or maybe that worked for its benefit because that's something really crazy to just have this character reminisce on at the very end of the movie. Because no wonder he didn't want to go back to Earth. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Yeah, right. He'd go back and just kill her because, like, I'd want to after all that. But no, that's a good point. And it's so interesting because having, again, having been someone who read the book, like, I put those pieces together because I know that that's how the story takes place. But for people who didn't, it would be a little like, oh, wait, is he remembering? Because on the book, they talk about, like, I mean, I guess they very briefly hinted on it in the beginning of the film. Like he's like, "Where am I? Who am I?" But it seems like he remembered pretty quickly, and you don't realize that the flashbacks are actually just his memories coming back. But in the book, like he was forced to go because there's this thing of like there's only there's certain a genetic factor or something that allows someone to withstand the coma that they have to be put under for the journey. And like they tested a bunch of people and he happened to be one of them. And on top of the fact that he's been involved in the project for the entire course of its existence, she forced him to go. uh yeah, so it was much more clear in the book and earned for sure. And like his dismay towards the end that he finds out, he remembers that he was drugged, but there was some sense of catharsis because he had done so much work up until that point. So he's like, okay, I get it. I get why I'm here. I'm not really mad at it anymore, is what I remember more so from the book that didn't feel as earned in the film. So I
Yeah, because
agree
that's
with
the
what
thing
you're
too, is
saying.
like he doesn't think he's brave enough. But then over and over again, Rocky's telling him, like, you're a brave guy, man. So I think
Yeah,
that
right.
maybe Rocky was the missing piece that he needed to know that he was able to complete this mission in the first place. But Dan, I mean, you haven't read the book, or you didn't know that as much as we did. So did you, when that happened in the story, when you find out that he was drugged, did you see it as him sitting on the Hail Mary remembering it at that certain moment, or did you just think it was a random flashback?
I thought we were just kind of like the main way I assumed it was is that we were just getting kind of bits and pieces of his story as the story progressed in a way that makes sense. Um, but you know, I think all the stuff with him on Earth is really interesting, and I think maybe I had like a darker perhaps read on all of this than other people might, but like I kind of like that at the ending, in the end, he's happy. He's built this relationship with Rocky, and like what you see of humanity is in many ways very cold and cruel, and like, you know, what they do to him is objectively wrong. Like taking away his freedom of choice. Like it's a horrifying scene that's played for laughs. And like people in my theater, some people were like laughing, and I was like, no, this is like really horrifying. Um, so I kind of like the idea that, he does his part, he sends his stuff back to Earth, and then it's like, if Earth is gone, oh well, I don't know, like, is humanity necessarily, like, are we beyond redemption? Like, are we beyond saving? I don't know. But he's kind of in this spot where like he's happy and he's doing something good and he's teaching again, and just because they're a different species doesn't mean they're not important or whatever. So
Yeah.
um, I think it's interesting, and you can read that in a lot of ways. But I like that there's not a big focus on Earth, like, oh, everything's fine now. Like he did his job, and I like that his happiness is focused on there.
Yeah. He like found his place in space, so to speak. It was on a different planet. Yeah. Wow, that's actually a really interesting point of view. In the
Yeah,
just to kind
I
of read
like that reading a
into,
lot. Yeah.
yeah, like is humanity even worth saving? Because like, yeah, there's no guarantee that those beetles would have made it back to
Oh, not at
Earth,
all.
the ones that he
Yeah.
sent with like the bacteria and everything. But he was like, good luck, I guess, but I'm gonna go save my friend, the only being that I've ever actually cared about. So I guess in that case, speaking of the ending, is the only place
Yes.
I had a little bit of problem, because I just think again in the book it was done better, is that I did also, although like, he kind of found where he belongs or where he maybe would have been happier in the book, like because of the different gravity and the environment on Arid, it actually took a physical toll on his body. Like in the book, he was walking with a cane in the last scene and all of that. Like he's aged significantly. And I don't remember how long the duration was when they flashed forward to the last chapter. But it's like Arid sucks for him. And I know they built him a dome and all that kind of things, but like you can't really change the gravity of your planet. So, and also before they landed, like he got scurvy because they eat such different foods. So, arid scientists had to extract proteins from his muscles to make him like meat from himself because he was gonna die. So, like,
Damn.
there was a big
That's
cost to the
crazy.
decision that he made. Yeah. It's like the poop potatoes on Mars from The Martian, but like it's just the things you have to do to survive. So like there was a big cost for him to have made the decision to go to Arid, and I just think they did none of that in the movie. And like it's fine, it still ended in a happy note and all that, but I'm like, damn, I wanted to see a bit more of the cost of this decision. And like the thing with the Arid babies, all good, that was all in the book too, and I thought that was such a sweet, cute ending because he's doing what he loved but just with a different species. And I do remember in the book he gets closure because arid scientists are able to look at our star Sol and see that it's back to full luminosity, so he knows that his probes got there. And he doesn't know in the movie. I think he's just assuming everything worked out great, but it would have been a really, I think, heartfelt moment had Rocky been like, "Hey, by the way, we looked at your son and it's working again." And then like in the book, he just started breaking down. So there was just more of like layers that I think could have been added in the ending. And I'm curious as to why they didn't. Maybe test audiences were like, "We're good, just let it be purely happy." But I did want to see a bit more of the physical cost and the toll it took on him.
I guess when it comes to the gravity, you said like Arid's gravity would take or like be heavily weighed on him and it would like treat his body differently. But
Mhm.
doesn't isn't Rocky able to change the gravity like in between their little tubes and like so I guess doesn't it make sense that he would be able to in that glass sphere adjust the gravity because we've seen him do that already maybe that's
It
the
could
reasoning for it.
be. Yeah,
Yeah.
that could be right. I think I'm trying to think if it was addressed better in the book as to how, because he is in his own tube, right? Like his hamster bubble and tubes in Grace's ship.
Yeah, somehow Rocky's able in that tube to adjust the gravity just partially, I
Yeah.
think.
I think maybe it's also because they're in space. So like the so you are kind of creating your own artificial gravity maybe with centrifugal force, but if you're on a planet that has its own immense gravity, I really just don't know how you change that. But maybe that's where you just let the sci-fi be sci-fi and be like, yeah, their technology is advanced enough to do it.
They're
So
very smart.
therefore,
Yes.
yeah, like they can manipulate gravity on their own planet, which I'm just like I'm trying to really think on how that'd be possible. But yeah, you can always write something off to be like arid engineers are just better than us, and they can do that for sure. And which also in the movie, like that's totally fine. I guess I just wanted to see just a little bit more cost. Like this decision, he's happy he did it, but maybe there was a second guess. I don't know why. I just kind of wanted a little bit of that. But I know Rocky did ask like, "Hey, we fixed your ship. You can go home if you want." And he's like, maybe can I think about it?" Like that's sweet. But there's just something there, guys. There's something I just wanted a little more of like there was a tiny, tiny amount of regret to this.
I think maybe the reasoning behind that is, and I like this movie a lot. It feels very safe in a way. Like it feels like it's very palatable and very much designed to like leave people feeling just really good, and like then they go tell people to watch the movie. I think like um Stone knows there's a lot of movies I would love to take a much darker turn, and I like
Yeah, right, right.
like at the end of How to Train Your Dragon live action, I think he should have died. Stuff like that. But
Yeah.
Terrible, terrible take. I mean, Hoppers. I mean, did you watch the animated movie Hoppers, the Pixar movie?
No, I want to. I have
Oh,
just seen some trailers. It looks
have
kind of
you
cute, but
seen
so bad.
Over the Hedge? That's a,
yes.
okay. The way that the animals treat the humans in that movie, they really fuck them up. Dan
Mhm.
really wanted that in Hoppers, and he didn't get that in Hoppers. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I
I
get
just
that. I would
I think
probably
I
want to
agree
see
with
it.
you. I agree with you where like I think a little bit more edge and bite can leave you like you might remember something a little bit more, or like it might be a little bit
Mm,
more poignant. But at the same time, I am happy with this, and
mm.
it will make people feel good and maybe not.
Yeah.
But I hear you with that.
Yeah. And literally, it's just because I came from reading the book. Had I not read it, I probably wouldn't have even given a thought to being like, oh, he's good. He's solid. Everything's
So
fine on Arid.
do you think, or both you guys think he will eventually go home, or do you think he'll just stay in that life? Maybe just talking about the film version, perhaps.
Full version.
Well, Kalpana, there's like anywhere as I kind of said a little bit about a sequel, just a little bit about a sequel. He said that
Interesting.
I made it. Yeah, I made a video about it earlier today. I was just
Mm,
looking at interviews with him, and the one thing he mentioned that might be that you might want to touch on again for sequel material randomly is what happened to the other crew members on the Hail Mary. I guess
um,
maybe in the book you just thought that, I mean, the machine that was taking care of them, that something happened and it wasn't foolproof and they just died in their coma state. But he said what actually happened to them. He knows exactly what happened to them, but he doesn't want to say it because he wants to use that for sequel material.
mm,
So I think that possibly there is something with the astrophage that he wants to use, maybe something that they don't know about, and that's why they passed like they did. And then you
mm.
can use that in a sequel because astrophage will more than likely still be used as the fuel to get Grace to from Arid to Earth. But that's the only
Yeah,
thing I could think of.
interest.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's so interesting. I had no idea. So, like, he wants to just jump directly to a movie sequel or have a book version first? Did he? We
He
don't
did
know.
not. He just said
Mm.
the crew members that passed. I know why they passed. I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to leave that for a sequel one day. So
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
this
Yeah.
is doing well. So probably a movie.
Yeah.
Me and Dan were talking about it. I'm sure Andy Weir
Yeah.
wouldn't object to a nice paycheck, but
Yeah, absolutely. Totally. I guess, I trust him to create a great story, but I don't know if, I mean, just personally, I guess, I don't know if I really care what happened to them. Like, I love what their relationship with Rocky and Grace and what that ended up being. So, like, unless it turns out to be this, like, huge revelation or something crazy, like, I don't really care. But I'm sure he'll do a great job. So that's fascinating.
yeah, I don't know. Would you like to see him just chilling on Arid, Dan? Do you want to see him go back to Earth?
I don't need another movie of this.
That's kind of how I
Like,
feel. Yeah.
no,
I'm
like
fine with that too.
yeah,
Hmm.
I like a little bit of mystery, I think, in stories at times, and I think like sometimes just let a good thing be a good thing, and don't try to like we've kind of been talking about here. Don't try to stretch it for another dollar. Like just tell a new story. Like I know Lord and Miller have already allegedly are already making Artemis into a film. So which is for anyone who doesn't know, Weir's other novel that's popular.
Mhm.
Um, and that looks, from what I can tell, it's a little bit heavier, but I think it deals with like the moon and it looks interesting. But I think they're going to do that. So I'm not sure when this would be, and I kind of, I would like to see everyone doing other stuff and telling new stories.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that's the only way I would be okay with a sequel is if you had Andy, but you had Drew Goddard, you had the directors back, you had Ryan back, you had the composer back, you had the cinematographer back, all of that. And without any of those, I don't think this movie works as well. And I think it's
Yeah.
very, very unlikely that you get them all back. So I don't think a sequel
Yeah.
is needed in that case. Dan, I looked up what Craig Fraser was doing next. He's doing those Beatles movies.
God, I just am so uninterested in that. And like, I'm working on a video, like, not too off on a tangent. Barry Keoghan,
Mm.
he's just not very good at acting. And like, the more I watch him, and the more I feel like he's just kind of played out. And I feel like people saw him. Everyone's like, oh, everyone saw him in Saltburn, and they were like trying to recreate that. I think they saw him in Killing of a Sacred Deer, and they tried to recreate that, and it's been done over and over again. And he just like the Peaky Blinders movie I just watched. It was atrocious. But
Mm.
anyway, the Beatles movies, I'm not excited, but they'll look
Mm.
good, I guess.
Yeah. Maybe the
I will
music will
say,
be good.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, his best movie is probably The Banshees of Inisherin. He feels like a different character there, different than his like freaky side that they've been trying to cast him. I guess
Mhm.
he is kind of like,
Still a weird character. He's a
yeah, he
weirdo.
is like kind of like, hey,
Mhm.
Carrie Condon, how you doing? But
Yeah.
Yeah.
is that Beetle? Who's he playing? Is that Beetle weird? "Quote unquote"
Ring
weird.
Ringo. I think he's playing
I
Ringo.
don't know.
Ringo's alive, right? Am I wrong?
I don't
Uh,
There's
know.
two of them
I'm
alive. I know Paul McCartney's one.
Paul McCartney's one. Maybe it is. I don't know, actually.
We're terrible Beatles
he
fans,
he
but
is alive. He's alive. He's
Okay.
85 years old.
Damn.
all right.
Mm.
Well, maybe he's a weird guy, as in like weird fun. But we'll see, I
Yeah, yeah,
guess, in
yeah.
the
Yeah,
movie.
exactly.
I want to say, since you've
Yeah.
read the book, Capona, there's one significant scene in this movie that is not in the book.
Mm.
And I'm curious what you thought about it when it happened. And I mean, I know the background of the scene is when Strat sings karaoke and it's Sign of the Times. And I guess what happened was, and I saw somebody make a video about this, and they were posting articles and paragraphs of articles, so I'm sure everything they were saying was correct. But basically, how that scene came about was that Ryan Gosling heard um what's the actress's name? Oh
Sandra
my
Hüller.
gosh, Sandra
Sandra.
Hüller. So sorry, Sandra. I love Anatomy of a Fall. Don't come at me. Um, heard Sandra Hüller singing on set, and Ryan was just like, "You got to sing in the movie. Let's do it."
Mm.
And I guess that maybe the karaoke was set up, but that's how her character, that's how Strat came to actually do it themselves. And then Sandra actually talked to her daughter, and her daughter was the one decided to do Sign of the Times. Perfect song. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know. What did you think about that moment?
Yeah, I thought it was like a nice slowdown to the film. I don't know if it was midpoint or getting closer to that time or whatever, but it felt like it was needed. And I guess you got to see her humanized a little more because then right after she becomes evil again, pretty much with what she does to him. Um, I think it went on a bit too long, but that's also because I have a short attention span. But I thought it was like just a nice slowdown. Everyone coming to terms with like these three people are gonna go to space and never come back and die out there. So let's just kind of live in this moment. So yeah, so I liked it.
I guess she was reading your mind too, because she's like, "All right, I'm done." Like after the first verse and
Yeah,
chorus,
she's like, all right, guys, I
I was like, that
think
was
we're
very
good.
smart.
Yeah, totally. And very like if it was also very on character for her to do that. But yeah, I didn't mind that.
It's
Also,
very
like I
very
like
German.
yeah, yeah, like, all right, I'm done. I like in the movie too because they don't do as much of like the reality show aspect of like, this is my roommate and he's driving me crazy. Like it was a real world type of stuff talking to the camera. I don't remember that as much in the book, but I thought it was cute. It was a cute way to kind of convey their relationship on the ship and Rocky's excellent hearing. That part I did laugh. I thought it was cute. It's the only other
Is
major difference I noticed, I think.
can I ask a book question? Is there like a romantic dynamic between them in the book?
Strat and Grace?
Yeah.
No, not that I recall. She is incredibly work and business oriented and just there's zero chemistry or anything between them.
So what I've heard is
It felt like there was
they've made her a
a
lot more personable in the movie than they did in the book.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
definitely.
felt like there was a little bit of a hint of that in this, or maybe
Mm,
like he was thinking that way and she was like, nah. But
no. Yeah.
I think
I thought
they
that was
connect just because
interesting.
they just don't have anybody. I mean,
Yeah.
both Grace and
Sure.
her are just sitting up on a rooftop while everyone on the entire ship is partying because they have no one
Yeah.
else to hang out with. So they know that that's what they're supposed to do. So when they both go down there together, they're still alone. He's still alone at the bar and she's still alone singing karaoke, but they have a moment across the bar basically with each other without even getting close to each other because they both know they know in that moment that Strat is singing to Grace and the song perfectly fits like what's happening in the story. Um and also another thing about the whole her drugging him that stood out to me more on the second watch, and this might be Sandra Hüller's acting, and it probably is Huller's acting. Her in her heart, Strat believes that Rylan really is the only person that can save humanity. I think that she knows that he's the smartest, maybe he's the kindest, maybe he's good at adapting to what's going on. And but she knows that, especially after that explosion happens, that he is their one chance. And she has built this interesting connection with him. So when she has to do that, because that's still her character, it does seem like it hurts her to do it and that she doesn't want to do it, but she cares more. It's kind of like what's that character on Invincible, Dan?
Um, my
Oh,
guy, my guy.
sorry.
Oh no, I haven't
Cecil.
watched it in
Cecil.
so long. Cecil,
Cecil.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
It's kind of like Cecil, where he's like, I am friendly to everyone, but the fate of the world and the planet is my number one priority. And I hate that I'm hurting you, but I have to hurt you.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
totally. And I think there was more humanity in her in the movie than in the book. I don't think she had at least like, I mean, as far as you could tell, based on the written word, I don't think it affected her as deeply betraying him in the book as it did in the film. But because she knows it's for the greater good. That's how she justifies everything that she does.
when you said the written word, it made me think of the Bible. I don't know. I grew up in a Christian. It's like
The
the written
sacred
word,
written word
the written word of Project Hail
of
Mary,
Andy Weir.
the Holy
Exactly.
Scriptures.
Project Hail Mary. One moment that in the book, this is off subject, but that I just loved because I ponder this shit all the time of like, life out in the universe and things like that. And Fermi's paradox, like statistically speaking, if life out there is so abundant, like where is everyone? Why haven't we contacted them? And I love that in the book, Rocky and Grace have a short conversation about it. And because I forgot who brings it up, but I'm pretty sure it's Rocky who answers the questions like, why us? Like, why isn't there other people? And then as they sit there and think about it, Rocky's like, well, if a civilization isn't as advanced as we are, then they're pretty much fought to like, there's nothing they can do to get rid of this astrophage. They don't have space technology yet. If they're primitive, they're screwed. If they're very advanced, they're not going to be here at Tau Ceti either because they would figure out their problem like that. So it has to be a civilization who's in this specific medium point where we're advanced enough, but not too advanced. And it seems like both of them happen to be at that place, which is why they are both at this star. So like I just love that because Andy Weir literally thought of everything, every conversation that would realistically happen on this ship was in the book. And I thought that was so cool because it also signified to me because when I was first reading it, I was like, huh, I wonder if Rocky's people have encountered alien life before. But because they had this conversation, it was safe for me to assume that it's both first contact for both species because they're at that same level of advancement. And I just love that. I thought that's so cool.
That's fascinating. Also, it makes you think
Yeah.
that astrophage just murdered tons of civilizations out there.
Yeah,
Poor
totally.
guys.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
like just I don't know, their versions of cave people or even prior to their intelligent species, they're all just dying on the planet like the dinosaurs did on ours. There's nothing they could do. So, and then the ones who are too advanced don't need to be at Tau Ceti. So, just a sweet spot in the middle where we're smart enough but still dumb enough. We have to be here. And I thought that was
Yeah.
so, I don't know, just that part really stuck with me because that is genuinely so realistic.
We
I would say when it comes to
what are you
like
gonna say, Stone?
placements of when it comes to the placement of Tau Ceti and maybe where Arid is. I don't know if this is too scientific of a question, but you are the person to ask. I think it is that Rocky has been in space a lot longer, and I would that make sense positionally where his planet is compared to Earth, and that astrophage has affected his planet first, which is why he's just chilling by Tau Ceti before Ryland Grace even gets there. I guess that would
I'm
make
not.
sense.
Yeah, I know. I want to say I remember Arid being a couple of light years farther than Earth is from Tau Ceti. Also, by the way, these are real stars. In our planetarium last week
Mhm.
during the Project Hail Mary event, like we literally had the night sky pointing to both of the stars, which is so cute, so cool. Let's see. There'd be multiple factors as to why he might have been there longer. Their technology being better, they figured out how to use astrophage. And they also, because on their planet, because of the heat, they were able to manufacture more, which is why he was also able to give Grace some to go home. So they're able to manufacture more because of the settings of their planet. We figured out that they're better engineers. I'm not fully sure how much longer he's been there. For sure, he was there first. Do you guys remember if they said specifically? Yeah.
I heard somebody say 40 years one time. I don't know if that's right, but that's a long
Jesus
time.
Christ. That's a long time.
Especially if Rocky's alone for that long. That is
Yeah,
depressed. Yeah, I would also befriend
totally.
the first person that I see.
Holy crap. So, and I wonder too, because again, I don't remember what years are to Iridians versus us, like, and if he meant Earth years or whatnot, but that's nuts. I didn't think it was that long. One thing that they mentioned in the book that they glazed over very briefly in the film was that Iridians don't know about relativity. So, because Rocky's ship was traveling at a very high speed, time slowed down for him compared to the Arids back home. And his species doesn't know that. And it was like just glazed over in the film, but in the book, like it was a whole conversation, and it was like a big moment for Rocky to be like, "Holy crap! Actually, more time has passed for my people back home than it has been for me." And like that was a lot for him to take in. So I kind of wish that they kept that in the film. Maybe it would have made it a little more depressing, but I don't know. There's just something about this very smart species not knowing about relativity, coming to the terms with like, I've been out here longer than I thought I have, and like the toll that would take. So, yeah.
And they don't know about radiation too, right? I think that's the
Right.
conversation that they have where they do say relativity and then they say radiation and then
Yeah.
Grace is like, "Brother, that's why all your people died."
Yeah,
Essentially, which
exactly.
is a rough conversation. Sad.
Absolutely. So maybe it would have been too much to be like, oh, and also more time has passed for your people back home than for you. So sorry about that too. It could have been too much to happen in one conversation. So that's fair. But yeah,
I guess it's also good that they lived for so long
yeah,
because I guess his partner Adrian would have died, but because they do live a long time, then hopefully she's still there when they get back. Well, that'd be
yeah,
rough.
yeah, I know exactly. So, right. So there's a lot of, I don't know, it would affect you greatly to know that time varies based on different factors, of course, but speed being one of them. And for like a species to figure that out, like when we figured that out over 100 years ago, imagine the impact that had on humanity. Of course, none of us were alive then. Einstein figured it out, but just like, damn, that's nuts.
So I looked it up. It was 46 years that Rocky was
Damn.
just chilling there by
Just chilling
himself.
out there. Oh my God. And it does it say specifically like do they mean like Earth years, arid years? I'm just curious like what the
Um,
difference was, how they experience time also.
this is Reddit, so no.
Gotcha. Okay, no worries. I'll see if I
Maybe I
can
can
do
find
some due
it.
diligence at some point.
Okay.
Nonetheless, any amount of time is going to be nuts to be in space alone. Poor guy. So I'm so glad that he got a friend. He was definitely the heart of the film, and anything that ever happened to him, you were like crying, like when he was on fire. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
We have a something I wanted to ask you about. We have a Spielberg movie coming out this year about Disclosure Day, and I wanted to get your and I actually wanted to pivot this into something that's more serious, but um, what's your opinion on, I guess, life in the universe or disclosure or um anything in that realm? What's kind of your general feel on it?
Yeah, I statistically believe that life has to exist out there. Why we haven't been able to establish contact with anyone, there's various reasons. There's like so many hypotheses, like beings know to stay quiet because they don't want to signal themselves out there,
Hmm.
or our technology is very primitive, so we think we're looking for shit, but beings out there are emitting in a different frequency that we're not picking up. Also, the sky is massive and we're not frequencying out enough. Technology has only been advanced enough in a short amount of time, so we just need more time for things to develop. So there's so many reasons as to why contact has been non-existent, but I definitely have to believe that life exists out there. And like I when we mentioned earlier with Ad Astra, I would be more in shock if we found out that we were alone. I think that
Yeah.
would be I wouldn't know how to mentally cope with that. That would be crazier for me than if like arrival aliens arrived right now. So I have to believe we're not alone. Maybe it just comes from that natural instinct of human beings to not wanting to be alone. So you want there to be other life out there.
Yeah. I agree. I also wanted to mention, I don't know if you've been following along, but um, William McCaslin, the Air Force general that went missing last
Mm.
month, have you been following along with that at all?
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
He he was a very, very high up retired Air Force general who used to run the Air Force Research Laboratory, and was heavily involved in allegedly like programs that are UFO related. And when those emails got leaked in 2016, like all the Podesta stuff, a lot of that, some of that had to do with him and different UFO programs, etc. And he went missing, just like disappeared almost a month ago, and they're still looking for him.
Mm.
And another woman, an aerospace engineer named Monica Reza, who was working on she had worked on a rocket alloy and had gotten funding from one of the programs that he was running, and she also disappeared last year. And there's been like four or five other disappearances to this team of engineers in the past year, and people are starting to like put that together, and it's all
Yeah.
pretty disconcerting. Um, but something to look
Yeah.
into if you have time because they
Yeah,
all just kind of
definitely.
disappeared.
Yeah, and then so is kind of the assumption that they had answers to UFO or like access to it, and that's why they were disappeared.
Potentially not even related to disclosure, but potentially related to
Mm,
this rocket alloy they were working on.
okay.
I don't, there's people have laid out very clearly all the science around it and what specifically they were doing.
Mm,
Um, and that research is all there if you have the time, but
yeah.
it's all pretty upsetting and
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
Yeah, totally. I'll definitely look into that. I think I kind of like have vaguely seen some posts about it, but I've never looked into it too much. And I should because that's very, like you said, disconcerting for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what about you guys? Do you believe life exists out there?
I do.
Hmm.
I feel like it'd be a very boring universe if it was just us.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't.
Yeah, totally.
I feel like that's very, very unlikely.
Yeah, absolutely. It is just, it's a weird paradox that we've yet to receive signals or anything like that. But I guess, the universe is massive and humans haven't been around that long, especially with the technology that we have today. So maybe it's just a matter of time, hopefully.
Yeah. I also think like I think you mentioned like the dark forest idea where no one wants to make noise because people who
Hmm.
make noise
Die.
can attract attention. Yeah.
Yeah.
Die.
But I think it's interesting, and I think like it's kind of like I said earlier, I think probably all of our conceptions about what life will look like or be like could be completely wrong. Um,
Yeah.
but it is interesting. I think like people give so much attention to disclosure and alien stuff. I feel like we'll find out when they want us to find out. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like I just I can't get that invested in it, but I think there is other life. And I think one of the things about Spielberg movies, it seems pretty heavily invested in religion, and that's going to be a major theme there. And I think one of the things that people who tend to deny alien life circle back to is their religious belief, and they think we are the end all be all of the universe and of creation,
Yeah.
which I think is the insane narcissistic viewpoint. And I'm not discounting religion by any means, but I think like to think that all of this universe is here and it's just us. Well,
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
such
know.
a yeah, it's such a
But I
strange
think if there
perspective to have.
was,
Hmm.
yeah, I think if people did find out the truth, I think it would shatter a lot of religious folks in a pretty serious way. Um,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I agree. And yeah, I've only seen like the most basic trailer of Disclosure. It was just like where Emily Blunt
Don't
is.
watch the second one. I was just about to
Okay,
say, Dan, have you watched the
okay.
second one?
I don't even remember, dude, to be honest.
And actually, so I actually just got back from South by Southwest, and Spielberg actually
I was there
gave.
too.
You were there the whole time?
Yeah, yeah. I was there from Friday to Sunday. So like
Were
super
you
quick. It was like 48 hours.
were you there for like innovation section for like science stuff?
It was actually more for our podcast. A company is working with us, so they had like all their podcast people kind of officially launched themselves. It was that and plus like TikTok stuff. So all non-film related, sadly.
Did you get to
That's so
watch any
cool.
movies while you were there?
No, unfortunately
No.
not. Also, the weather killed me, and like during the day, I was like, I can't do this. It
Oh,
was hell.
yes. You were
So
there from Friday to Sunday?
yeah.
Sunday was brutal.
Sunday was brutal, and we had a couple
Yeah.
of like events to go to, TikTok related, and I was just like, I can't do this. And because everyone was so afraid of the long TSA lines, we got to the airport super
Oh
early, and we
yeah.
walked in like 2 minutes, so we were okay.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, it's a
Anyway,
bummer.
sorry to cut you off.
I maybe could have met you there
I
because
know.
Dan knows this. My TikTok representative like reached out to me like the first
Mhm.
day because I was there the entire time, and they reached out to me the very first day, and they're like, "Hey, like, are you here at South by Southwest? I would love to meet
Yeah.
up with you." And I said, "Yeah, I'm here. Just let me know." Didn't hear from them for 2 days, and then there was like an iHeartRadio slash
Yeah.
TikTok fest or award
On
show.
on that Friday. Oh no, the award show. Yeah. I think
Yeah,
that
it
was
was
on
on
Monday or
Monday. Well,
something. Yeah.
there's tons of TikTok events going all
Yeah.
on all the time, and
Mm-hmm.
she said, "Do you want to like we should meet up and say hi to each other?" I'm like, "Sure."
Yeah.
Emailed her back right away and said that. Didn't hear from her for days, and then my roommate he got invited to that award show, and I emailed her and I was like, "Hey, is there any leftover spots?" She's like, "No, sorry."
No, sorry. Oh my
so,
God.
so I
Yeah.
don't necessarily know why she reached out in the first place, just to never talk to me again about that, but
Yeah,
that was fun.
totally. Oh
But
no.
maybe she's
Okay.
just doing her due
Stove's not bitter at
diligence.
all.
No, I was just like,
No,
why even say anything at all?
I don't blame you. I would have been salty about that too. Like, don't implant that hope in my head and then just ghost me. Like, just don't even say anything in the first place then. Yeah.
But I
Hmm.
will say, yeah, during the Spielberg thing,
Hmm.
afterwards, they played the newer trailer for
Hmm.
Disclosure Day, and it did reveal something about Joshua Connor's character and his relationship to the
I did
aliens that
watch this.
yes, I wish I did not know that.
Okay.
I was sitting in the, I guess it was an auditorium or whatever, and I literally went, oh shit, like really loud because I did not know that was part of the story. So I would avoid it, but it's hard because I
Yeah.
mean I just watched Project Hail Mary and I the trailer was playing in front of it, so
Yeah,
it'll
exactly. It's gonna
it'll
be
be tough to
pushed like
avoid it.
crazy. Yeah, which speaking of, like, holy crap, the level of marketing they did for Project Hail Mary, it's something I've never seen him before. And of course, like my feeds are flooded with it because I've worked with Amazon since last summer for it. But it's just like they really did tackled every single possible influencer in every field you can imagine to talk about this film, and like good for them. I think it helped tremendously. So it was smart on
Yeah,
their end.
financially it's doing really well. I think it's the highest opening weekend, the second highest opening weekend for a non-franchise film. I think the only one
Yeah.
that was above it was Oppenheimer a
That's
couple
what I
years ago.
read today too. Yeah, which I mean, honestly, good for them. Whatever it takes to like market good stuff, I'm all for it. There's, times they should have maybe paid me a little more, but I'm happy to help out. So, yeah, yeah. But no, still happy to help a great film and a story that I actually really care about. It was such a good book. So,
Dan, did
Yeah,
you get an
yeah.
email about one of those IMAX packages?
not that I'm aware of.
Okay. I was saying, like, Emmett, my roommate at South by Southwest, also got an email about one of those IMAX packages. Now, to be fair, he's talked about Project Hail Mary quite a bit,
Oh,
but
okay, gotcha. Yeah, they sent a Lego set, a book, a hacky sack, a shirt, and a pin. I think that's all I see in there. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
are
So
you a
that's
big
what I'm
Lego
wearing
guy,
now.
Dan?
A big Lego guy?
Yeah, I feel like that's a guy thing to do. Is Legos girl thing too?
When I was a little kid, yeah, for sure. I kind of grew out of it. I shouldn't say that. There's a lot of people that still are really into Legos. No, I'm not a big Lego guy.
Well, the
but
thing
I
is too,
was.
a lot of people have talked about this, and it's unfortunate because toys in general, you like you would call Legos a toy, they're more
Mhm.
so being directed at adults now than they are children.
Yeah.
Like adults buy Legos, and the reason why there's not as many animated shows coming out is because a lot of times when it like Ben 10 was one that someone gave an example of recently is a lot of money that they made from those shows was selling toys from the shows, and now that they don't really toys don't sell anymore because a kid gets an iPad and they don't really play
Yeah.
with toys anymore. And
Toy Story 5.
unfortunately,
Damn.
yeah, we're really
Yeah.
curious how they're going to market Toy Story 5 when it comes to toys. Are they going to market the iPad even though the message of the movie is not to be on your
Yeah.
iPad?
Yeah, exactly. But play our game on the iPad though, or
Yeah,
something.
exactly.
Yeah. Interesting.
So, Dan, we have to like not actually put money on it, but we have to bet what's going to happen with that. Are they going to
Yeah.
market anything when it comes to the iPad?
Exactly.
I think it'll be classic centrism balance. Oh, have your time on the iPad and have your time with the toy. Like, I
Do you
don't
Yeah.
think
really
they'll
think
say
it's going to be
anything.
that?
Balance.
Yeah, I do.
Because because the thing is, it's like the redemption villain, right? It's like the villain who's misunderstood. That's what the fourth
Mhm.
Toy Story movie did. And I hope this one's just like iPad is for adults, kids, you play with toys. That's what I hope happens. But
Yeah, totally. Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you would hope
No,
for that, but
yeah, exactly.
it's like you watched the movie. Yeah, you would hope for that, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
ugh.
However, this is a complete side note, but what you said about like adults playing more with toys and stuff these days, like this Lego stuff that I have, I noticed this because I've done a lot of commercials in my years as an actor because SAG residuals are amazing. But it's when I pay attention to commercials these days, like there's this one that keeps popping up and I fucking hate it so much, but it's like AAA, I think. And like the guy in it is like this man child who can't do anything, so he needs AAA to help him. I think marketing knows that millennials, maybe Gen Z, see themselves as incompetent or children. So like I even see commercials for any product, even TurboTax, where it's like, oh, this millennial doesn't know what they're doing in life. They need our help. And like everything is just literally the guy in the AAA commercial calls himself Peter Pan. And so there's clearly like this idea or this push for directing kids things to adults, and maybe we did that to ourselves, but it's like a back and forth thing. So what you're saying about like Legos and adults, I'm like, yeah, that seems to be how products are seeing adults these days, is that they're still they're still useless kids. So
Yeah, I think maybe too. There's an element of like, I mean, nostalgia is
yeah.
always kind of a hell of a drug, and I think sells.
Hmm.
But I think also maybe there's an element of like people cling to these things from when we were kids, like
Yeah.
for a sense of like hope and joy, and just like to reminisce on stuff that we enjoyed. Um,
Yeah.
maybe as the world gets darker, that'll happen more. But
Yeah, seems to be nostalgia baiting for sure. Not that I blame them. I fall for it all the time. I listen to 90s music all the time these days.
Dude,
So
I think I'm a little too young for 2000s music, but now I've been listening to it. 2000 music fucking rocks, dude. 90s music
yeah, this
too,
is
but
fun. Yeah.
the 2010s when I like grew up, or like we all grew up, but like I feel like I mean I'm 28, so I don't know how old you are, Kalpana, but uh
Older.
2010 sucked. I never listen to music for the 2010s. It's like
Right.
EDM, it's like chain
Yeah.
smokers, it's like all this
Yeah.
shit,
Oh
and
my
it's just
God. No, hate it. Hate it so much.
it's not very good.
Yeah. No, that's no, we're gonna pretty much ignore that era existed. So
It's
there's
very
nothing
valid.
about it that was memorable. Mm-mm. Oh yeah, that's true.
But
Yeah.
this podcast episode was memorable. We appreciate you coming
Oh,
on.
of
This was
course.
awesome.
No,
Yeah.
same. Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me. I could talk forever about the universe, which is also forever. But real quick, I'm curious because you guys know film better than me. Do you see any awards or Oscar contending anything for this film next year?
Oh, good job asking. Yeah, I put that on our outline.
I'm looking at the outline, that's why.
Oh, it's gonna be tough. I think a lot of people want Ryan Gosling. I don't even know honestly if he'll get nominated.
Yeah.
It really depends on how many technical awards that the movie
Mhm.
gets. But I guess what it has going for it, when it comes to like Dune I think was nominated for many, many, many awards each year it came out,
Mm,
but no actors were ever nominated. So it's a little
yeah.
bit different here because this is really one acting performance in a film that could get 8 or 9 nominations. So
Yeah.
it is possible, but one thing also is, and I'll let Dan go after this, is that unfortunately this movie is kind of like a popcorn blockbuster, but very made very well. And a lot of times when the Oscars happen, they put one of these movies or two of these movies in Best Picture. Like
Yeah.
F1 was an example this past year that they put it in because
Yeah.
it's a fun, well-made blockbuster movie. Top Gun Maverick would be another example of that as well.
Mm,
But the thing is, this movie would be competing against Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey
yeah.
and Dune Part 3. And those three movies, like the demographic and the people who are really going to see them, a lot of them are very similar. So I don't
Mhm.
see the Academy nominating this movie and Dune and The Odyssey all for Best Picture because that'd be kind of redundant. But
Yeah.
besides that, I can see, I don't know. Gosling, Dan, what do you think?
I'll go on record and say he's going to be nominated.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. I think there are four actors who are sort of guaranteed to get a nomination. And I think that fifth spot is going to be like eight dudes fighting tooth and nail. Um,
So Gosling's one of the four.
yeah, I think it's Tom Cruise for Digger, Gosling, Matt Damon, allegedly John Malkovich for Wild Horse 9, which is the new Martin McDonagh movie. We were talking about Banshees earlier. And then Sebastian Stan is the favorite right now for the fifth spot for Fjord. But Sam Rockwell is also there. Chalamet, Josh O'Connor for Jack of Spades, Andrew Scott for Pressure, Jafar Jackson for Michael, Adam Driver, Brad Pitt, Channing Tatum, Keanu, Charles Melton. Like it's there's a lot of people up. So I
Yeah.
think he'll get one of those kind of locked in spots. I think um if I'm guessing right now.
What do you think about Best Picture with those other two? Like I was saying, it's gonna be tough. I think this is gonna be third compared to those other two.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I could see it getting nominated. I mean, it's because it's like we're talking. It's going to be up for all these technical awards, right? And then it's going to, maybe have a best actor, and he's kind of doing a one man show. So like, why should it not be up for best picture? Like, you know.
We'll
But
see.
I do hear your point. I totally get it.
Yeah.
Dan, what movie do you
Let's
think
see.
you'll like the most? Project Hail Mary, The Odyssey, or Dune? Wow. I mean,
Mm.
you haven't even seen the other two. That's a stupid question.
Yeah. No, but I mean, you kind of know in some aspect what to expect considering who the directors are. So
I don't think that The Odyssey is going to be as good as people think it's going to be. That is my hot
Oh,
take. That is my hot take.
I think you're
I also
wrong.
kind of agree, but there's already gotten some
Damn.
backlash on social media just based on accuracy. And I know it's
Oh
based on
yeah.
mythology. I know it's based on mythology, but it's still relative to that culture and even certain things like the design of the ship or their outfits or not at all Greek or Mediterranean influenced. So whatever, but I don't know. It's when something is so hyped, it has nowhere to go but down. So let's
That
see.
is true. That's what I'm saying.
Let's
I don't think
see.
it's going to be a
Yeah.
bad movie. I just don't think
Right.
it's going to be as good as people think. I think it's going to kind of be like Tenet, where it was just too much story and trying to do too much and it just didn't come together well. Now, looking at Oppenheimer from an objective lens, I would also think the
Mhm.
same thing with Oppenheimer, but it worked really well with
It
Oppenheimer.
worked
So
well.
Yeah,
I
like
know. Yeah.
he's working with the Odyssey. He has all these great actors. He just made like one of the best movies of all time. I wouldn't bet against him. Like, I also just think, if I had to guess, I would assume that I will like Dune and The Odyssey more than this movie. And like, I really like this movie, but it wasn't perfect for me.
Yeah.
Um,
Sure.
and I think there's a lot of movies that I'll watch this year that will hit me harder emotionally.
Yeah.
And again, I really, really like this, but like we were talking about, it is a bit lighter. It doesn't really like hit me in a way that will stick in my mind. And that's personal preference, like the stuff I
Yeah.
kind of gravitate towards. Dune
Yeah. Totally.
Dune is interesting because he like Denis ended Dune Part Two breaking away from the novel. So like that movie could be anything. And it's gonna be a kind of a conglomeration of stuff from Children of Dune and Messiah and like he could do whatever he wants with the story. It could be good or bad, I don't know, but I trust him as well. But
Mm. Yeah. It's a tough year, it sounds like. So But I agree. I don't know if he'll get Best Picture. I'm sure he'll maybe get a Best Actor. Whether he deserves it or not is not my opinion, but I foresee that also happening. Also, real quick, did Interstellar hit you guys more than this film, just emotionally? Did it stay with you? Since we talked about it before we started recording.
It's
I'm
tough.
I don't like Interstellar's like I like so many space like I think Contact smokes Interstellar. Like Contact, I like pretty much all the space movies we talked about more. I think Chris Nolan is not very good with big emotion like that. Like I think he's a very cold filmmaker, and I think, like you said earlier, he kind of hits everything so on the nose and directly emotionally, and like it's a little bit too much for me. I'm just like, all right, and
Fair
and
enough.
Yeah. Interstellar is a really meaty story. I would say the performances are really good though. Like watching Matthew McConaughey cry, watching Ryan Gosling cry. I just like grown men crying really
Let it
gets
out.
me.
Yeah.
I will say one thing I wanted to mention too. There's a shot in this movie that me and Dan have talked about. I think. No, no, it was me and my brother. But I love the moment where I know we've already come and gone when it comes to talking about Project Hail Mary. But Greg Fraser does a very interesting thing when it comes to the moment where Rocky tells Grace, "Hey, I'm going to give you some of my fuel." The shot is on the side of Grace's face, and he turns very slightly and hears him say that. And then we get a camera angle from Rocky's perspective, and we see Grace in the darkness, and he's walking very slowly. You cannot see his face whatsoever. And when he
Yeah.
comes into the light, he's bawling his eyes out. And
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, oh, that's good. And he's like, I thought,
Yeah.
and there was good humor when he's like, I thought you said you were at peace. He's like,
Yeah.
that's just something people say just to
Yeah,
say
I
it,
don't
you
mean
know.
that at all. Yeah, totally. Absolutely.
uh,
No, good catch. That was actually a very poignant moment for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Interstellar. It's very meaty, though. I will say, I had a buddy of mine who watched it for the first time, and I'm like, I think you're not gonna like it that much because the story is just there's so much information that's getting spat at you constantly. But then he liked it, so I'm like, maybe I don't know
Yeah.
you at all.
Yeah, it just, I don't know. There's some space friends of mine who initially just hated it. And when we were talking, because I saw it here at Chinese Theater, like I think it was a premiere or something, or some screening where the actors were there. But that spectacle blew you away, and the accuracy of the black hole 5 years before we got an actual image of it. Of course, because it's Kip Thorne. So, like, let's give credit where credit is due. So, like, it was just something different and profound visually at the time. But yeah, just Nolan's dialogue takes me out. And I always harp on this point when Anne Hathaway's character is like, love transcends space and time. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Like, that's clearly the theme of the film. You don't need to spell it out for me. And like, nobody talks like that. But that part that destroyed the film for me. I still like it. I thought the music was cool and just visually and like the fear of space and the emptiness and the lack of sound. I think it really nailed the scary wonder of what the universe is if you just ignore the story. I mean, the story is kind of cool too. I mean, it touches on time dilation and all of that and really allowed people to visually see how the function of the universe actually works, but went off the rails here and there a bit. But I don't know. I brought that up because I see people online comparing the two films, and for some reason, social media loves Interstellar. So I'm just like, they're two very different films. Fair to talk about them both though, because they're both space related. But I was curious on your guys' opinions, so that's why I asked. Hmm.
it's literally one of my least favorite Chris Nolan movies, and
Fair
I'm a
enough.
big fan of his. I don't like I hate The Dark Knight Rises. I think that movie's terrible. I think
Hmm.
Tenet is not a good movie, and I think Interstellar's like okay, and I like everything else.
I think the debate will be the fact that a lot of people think that Interstellar compared to Project Hail Mary is a smart man's film. Like the
Yeah.
dialogue, even though it's a lot of dialogue in Interstellar, is very, very quote unquote sciency, and it has these big. It's thinking very big and large things about the plot,
Yes.
about the universe, and all of this. And then when it comes to Project Hail Mary, it's simpler and it's about
Yeah.
friendship rather than love transcending time and space.
Yeah, exactly.
And both of those things can be true. And Project Hail Mary can still be better than Interstellar, and Interstellar
Yeah.
can still be better than Project Hail Mary because the two movies are trying to do opposite things, no
Yeah.
matter how they are talking about the universe and how they're talking about science. But I
Yeah.
think that the fans of that movie, of Interstellar, automatically think it's better because it's meteor, because objectively has more to say, but
Yeah.
that doesn't necessarily always translate into a good movie. I'm not saying it's
Yeah, right.
bad,
Right.
but just based on the substance of the story doesn't automatically mean that the movie is good.
Yeah, that's a good
So
point. Absolutely. And like we were saying before we hopped on, like Interstellar's plot depended on the science of the film, so it had to beat you over the head with it. But like Project Hail Mary didn't really need to. You can grasp what was happening without getting into it scientifically. And then I think that's so cool. I think it's also just another way, like what I try to do is just get people interested in STEM. And entertainment's a big way they do. Like I don't know anyone who was regularly talking about black holes prior to Interstellar coming out. So it's great that it at least gives people a window into getting interested in science, no matter how good or bad the film is.
perfectly said.
Thank you.
I also just as a final thought on this, I think as Matthew McConaughey is kind of aging poorly with all of his involvement with AI and all his investment
Yeah.
there and stuff, and like just I find him to be this like fake deep pseudo intellectual who thinks he's talking in sound bites at every moment of his life, and I'm tired of it at this point. Um, and I think that movie, the more I tire of him, the more I associate that movie with like his whole shtick that I've tired of. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
feel like it's kind of the same thing,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, all right, Matthew, just shut the fuck up,
Yeah,
please. Just
seriously.
When Dan doesn't like an actor, it really hurts a movie.
Yeah.
But
but you get what I'm
to be
saying,
fair,
right? Like
The Lego movie, you're like, actually, Chris Pratt is pretty ununique. You know, this is perfect for him. He is a really boring guy.
Right. Yeah, yeah, perfect. They nailed the casting. No, that's fair. That's part of the movie magic, though. It's like, yeah, the person who does the acting is going to make an impact on how you see the film or whatever it is.
Ryan Gosling could do Interstellar, but Matthew McConaughey couldn't do Project Hail Mary. Oh, oh,
Well said.
Dan.
yeah, I think that's fair. And like I didn't get to really
Yeah.
glaze Ryan
Yeah.
Gosling much in this episode, but like he's one of my favorite act. Like
Mhm.
I'm watching my 27th Ryan Gosling movie right now, which is the last one that he is a lead in, and I wanted to rank all of them. His filmography is amazing. There's like a couple bad movies. It's amazing stuff, and he's done such a great range of. He's made some dark ass serious movies. And also he can do stuff like Ken, and he can do stuff like this, and he can do, he can be goofy, he can sing and dance, and like he's a really talented dude. I think he fell into a little bit of a comfort zone where he made like, he made The Gray Man for Netflix, and I was like, all right, please stop it. And then
Fall
like,
Guy.
the Fall Guy, he was in Barbie, which I like
Mhm.
Barbie, but like, very safe, and he also talked about having kids and wanting to make lighter stuff for his kids, which
Yeah.
he openly talked about. Um, Originally, people wanted him to play Ghost Rider in the MCU, and when they originally brought up that conversation, he was like, that's really dark and heavy. I kind of want to steer away from that." But now they're once again talking about that character for him, which would be
Mhm.
cool. And I'm just happy to see him do well because he seems like a good guy,
Yeah,
and easy to root for. So.
I mean, when it comes to the
totally.
lighter stuff for his kids, I mean, the next movie I think he's in is a Star Wars movie. So that's like just what he's interested in now doing.
Mhm.
And I saw an interview because he has directed a movie. Dan, have you watched this movie that he directed?
Mm, no, I don't think so.
It was a while ago that he directed it. And this interviewer asked him, like, would you be interested in that again? And he said, kind of like Project Hail Mary, when it comes to directing a movie, it takes up so much of your time. And he's just like, I'm just not interested in that. He said he would maybe do it again when his kids are grown. But the guy just wants to
Mm.
hang out with his movies right now, or hang out with his
Yeah.
movies, hang out with his
That
children.
too.
The opposite.
Yeah,
This
good
looks
for him.
really sorry, this looks really wild. It's called Lost River. A single mother is swept into a dark underworld while her teenage son discovers a road that leads him to a secret underwater town. And Matt Smith and Saoirse Ronan are in it, and Ava Mendes. So, and
Hmm.
Ben Mendelsohn. So I might watch
Okay.
But
this.
he's not in it though, so that's why you haven't watched it.
No, yeah, I was
Right.
watching his whole filmography as an actor, but
Mm.
I will say one thing that I also thought of, Dan, when it came to this movie and Ryan acting opposite something that doesn't necessarily feel like an animate object, or he's just acting against an object, was Lars and the Real Girl. That's Do you want to tell her what that's about?
Lars and the Real Girl is basically a romantic comedy about him playing a character who I believe I don't remember if it's stated. I think he's autistic in the movie. And it's kind of a movie about the community kind of like taking care of him and looking out for him and his friendships and his dynamics, but he's a very lonely guy. And basically he starts a relationship with a doll, like a full
Mm.
size, like it sounds very odd, like a full
Mhm.
size doll. But the movie is sort of about him working through that quote unquote relationship and the way the community treats him about that. And he's kind of working through stuff within himself by doing that. And it's like it sounds odd, but it's not like a weird movie. It's
Yeah.
I'd say it's wholesome and very
Okay.
sweet, but it's worth watching.
Okay. What was
Interesting.
it called again?
It's called Lars and the Real Girl.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Good for him though, telling unique stuff. I mean, he clearly loves the craft. It's not
Yeah.
just like, oh, I'm hot, so therefore I'm in Hollywood. Like he loves acting, and that's so apparent.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of his
Yeah.
early stuff is really, really difficult, challenging. I mean, one of his earliest roles
Yeah.
was playing a Jewish neo-Nazi in this movie called The
Mm.
Believer. That was like he was like
Mm.
18 and he
Wow.
crushes that movie and it's really, really good. So
Damn. That's awesome.
yeah.
Did you see his whole thing about La La Land when it came to this movie?
Mm.
So basically, Ryan on the poster of La La Land has his hand bent.
Oh, I
And
saw the
it was
reshoot.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it wasn't supposed to be bent. He thought it would look better if it was bent rather than straight out like Emma Stone's.
Mm.
But then after the images came out, he's like, I really hate that. I think it looks terrible. So they did like a funny one. They funny, I guess you'd say a parody
It does
poster.
look weird.
Yeah, of Project Hail Mary, where it was Rocky
Mhm.
and him doing it. And if you look at the
Yeah.
newer one that he just did for Project Hail Mary, his arm is straight, and he tried to make sure it was straight because he thinks it looks stupid that it's bent.
Yeah, no, that was fun. It was also shot at Griffith Park, not the observatory, but that was really cute. I love all the marketing they're doing for this film. It's so fun and wholesome and just adorable. So yeah, I recommend seeing it to those who are listening if you haven't.
Yeah, for sure.
And guys, I recommend checking out Kalpana's other work. She hosted literally a screening of this movie at an observatory. Really cool stuff. But if you want to
Yeah.
learn
Thank
about the
you.
universe, you know what? You plug yourself. What am I
Oh,
saying?
sure,
Plug
no
yourself, please,
worries.
before we
That
log
was
off
a
here.
great start though. And I don't know if the video is going to be posted. It's fine if it's just audio on StreamYard, but I do have my book. I published it in late 2023. It's
Oh
called
Nice.
shoot.
Space. Yeah, it's called Spaced Out: A Casual Approach to the Cosmos. If you want to learn anything space related, it's super simple. Just the way I talk about space on social media. Every page is its own subject, so you don't get overwhelmed. And it's literally every single subject I could talk about that has anything to do with the universe, including a section on quantum mechanics to the best of my ability. It's on Amazon and I think Best Buy. But yeah, you can find me on social media, just my name, Kalpana Pot, Kalpanapot. And my books and all that stuff is linked on there, and my podcast. Yeah.
Awesome. And
That's
this
so
will be
cool.
shown video, so people will be able to see
Okay,
you
sweet.
showing it
Yes,
off.
then the shirt. I'm glad I had a good background for this then. And then here's the book again.
Yeah. You did
Yeah.
great. Sorry about our technical difficulties that we
No,
had during
all
this
good.
episode, but we did it. Look at
We
us.
did it. And we went on even longer, which is awesome because there's so much to say. So thank you guys for having me.
Absolutely.
Also,
Thank you.
what's your podcast called?
Oh yeah, it's called Science and the City. It's dumb, I know, but it's a play on Sex and the City because to us,
It's
city
not
is
dumb.
entertainment. Thank you. So we talk about science and entertainment too in some capacity, mostly sci-fi things and book recommendations. But yeah, we're on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts as well,
I mean,
and
we
that's
like
fun.
Goodwill Hunting, so we're Goodwill Podcasting. It's not that.
No,
It's not
okay,
that.
fair enough. Yeah, right. Coming up with names is so tough, but actually that's really cute. So yeah, Science in the City, a new project that I'm involved in. But it's just my friend Ashley and I. She also does STEM content online. And we figured like, when we get together, we talk about science for fun. So why not just put a microphone in front of us like everybody else and start a podcast? So yeah, good
Nice.
times.
That's sweet.
Awesome.
Good
Yeah, but
question, Dan,
honestly, yeah,
to ask
totally.
about the
Thank
name.
you. Yeah, I didn't realize I didn't mention it yet. But thank you guys for having me. This is so fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Please go ahead and check out all the things that Kalpana just mentioned, the
Mhm.
podcast, her page, her book. Next week, we might talk about a horror film called They Will Kill You. I didn't run that by Dan. I put that on the outline, but that's really the only thing coming out this week. So we'll see if we talk about that. But stay tuned till then. Please, again, go check out Kalpana. And
Thank you.
let us know what you thought about Project Hail Mary. If you liked it, if you like Interstellar better because there's more intellectual things going on in it, whatever. Just tell us down below wherever you're listening. But until next week, guys, go outside, sit on a park bench, touch some grass, call up your friends, watch a good movie, and we'll see you then. Peace out, everybody.